What's up, y'all? It's Shuffle, and today's video is talking about something that's a little disheartening, honestly. I talked about this on stream, and I kind of popped off about it, and after talking to my girlfriend specifically, I was asking her what she thinks I should do with the content and how I approach this initially. She had some really good things to say, and so I'm going to redo this specifically for YouTube, and I'm going to talk about it. I'm just going to give you the news as best I can and try to raise some questions. She called it like spilling the tea or something like that, so I don't know, but that's what we're doing. And this is a Reddit thread. This is talking about the Darkest Dungeon board game from Mythic and Red Hook. This is a partnership, and this was from Aussies on the Rocks, so shouts to them. They did great work. They compiled some of the important parts of the recent update about the game, the board game rather, and a very relevant Kickstarter comment. So we'll talk about all that. I'll give you the news as best I can, then I'll give you, like I said, a couple questions to ask yourselves, because we really don't have the full story yet, but it's easy to be upset, rightfully so. With that in mind, the short end of it is Mythic Games and Red Hook partnered 2 years ago for the Darkest Dungeon board game. It was kickstarted. Mythic is a board game company that has made several other board games in the past, and they've used Kickstarter for all of them so far. And Red Hook decided to partner with them because they had a track record, and from my understanding, they have, at least they know people in the company, or they're friends with them or something like that. So the other thing too about the video that I need to get out of the way is we're using a new microphone. So if you hear things differently or if it sounds weird or something like that, tell me. I'm trying to fix it, and I'm only one person, but yeah, so very cool. Excited for new equipment. But with that being said, the game is something that the Kickstarter was in 2020, and I am a part of this. My friends, who are very awesome to me, good friends of mine, they put in on the original pledge for the Crimson expansion, which is, or the Crimson pledge. So you get the base game and Crimson Court, and that's really cool. And then after I graduated, I think I'd already graduated college actually, but my YouTube content started taking off. So I had cash to spend, which I, really haven't had my entire life. It's always been kind of paycheck to paycheck, and still largely that way. But I did have a little extra cash, and I threw in, and we went up to the Ancestral pledge. So we're $330 collectively into this, and we paid, I think, like an extra $60 for shipping, something like that, 50 or 60, something around there. So we're about $400 into this. And the important thing is we already paid for shipping. And so Mythic, the big controversy right now is they put out this update. I will link everything in the box below for your convenience if you want to look at it yourself. But we got this update, rather, I should say. And they're saying that their shipping costs have gone up and their material costs have gone up and stuff. And they give you this really, quickly put together graph that doesn't explain too much. And they say that the shipping cost is now up to 3.1 million. Where apparently the backers paid for 1.7 million in shipping already. So the shipping cost has almost doubled since then. And the additional cost is up to almost $2 million for shipping for this game. And so what everyone is getting upset about is specifically this. So it says here, one of the important statements of this update, it says, in agreement with Red Hook, video game creator and publisher, our partner on Darkest Dungeon, the board game, we are asking for your help in contributing these additional costs to pay the extra thing. And Red Hook and Mythic are covering half of the nearly 2 million. And so they're up to 100,000 from Red Hook, and Mythic is throwing in 775,000. And then they're asking for the rest of the money to come from the backers. So a lot of people are pissed off that it says in agreement with Red Hook, and they're taking it as Red Hook is like signed off on it, to the extent where Mythic came to them and said, hey, we're going to ask the supporters for more money for this game. Are you okay that we do that? alongside all of the other things that you're about to see in this update. And we don't know what in agreement actually means. It's very easy to speculate what it means. It's very easy to go scorched earth and think that Red Hook is, like, of all times now, choosing to be jerks to their fan base when they have no track record of this so far. But they're partnered with a third-party company here, and from what it sounds like, the third-party company, Mythic, is, at least to me, the ones largely responsible for this. So, when they talk about getting these extra contributions, they have a flat payment amount depending on what you bought. So they break it down by piece. If you bought the game piecemeal, you bought like Core Set and Color of Madness, like let's say those are the only two things you bought, then you have to pay this amount combined, so $23. The totals here, sorry, woke up a little bit ago, nose is stuffy, but yeah, so the totals are for the pledges, and this is where most of us are going to fall into. My friends and I were either the Ancestral Pledge or the bundle. I don't know which of these. I don't know what's qualified as the bundle, but I'm in one of these camps. So after already paying, you know, 50 or so for shipping, I'm gonna have to pay another either 46 or 69 to get my game because shipping costs are very high right now. And so they broke this down into two waves. And this is important because if you don't know what this other update, the one they sent prior to this one, so this was I think 111, this is 110. This update is actually just as relevant to what's happening with this game as this one is. And so they're asking you to pay for shipping right now, but they're doing two waves of what's being printed, if that makes sense. So even though I bought pretty much everything on this list, I think, with the, you know, Omega Pledge that my friends and I did, we're only getting the left side of it first. Wave 2 is not in production yet. So they say somewhere in this update, it's up here. It says, and it's like under this, right? It's very easy to miss this with where it's at. You know, it's just this little thing after a slideshow and before this, you know, cartoonish graph. And it says, Wave 2 file creation is currently being finalized according to our schedules. They estimate that printing will start in Q1 of next year. So that means that all of this stuff here, the second half of the game, if you bought everything or if you bought a bunch of stuff, the majority, I shouldn't say the majority is going to be the core box, but pretty much all of the extra stuff that's not the core box and Crimson Quartz is not being printed until next year. Only Wave 1 is done. So they don't even have this done yet. And it's not even finalized. It's being finalized. And this is going to be an issue that I'll talk about later. They estimate that it will begin shipping in February and productions in January. And then delivery will happen in March. The only thing I will say about Mythic is so far they have been 6 months or more behind everything that they have said schedule-wise for this project. What does that mean for us? So Wave 1, so the first part of the game, so the Core Set and Crimson Quartz are printed. And they're sitting there on a boat, or like in a warehouse in China. It says right here. Your game is printed, it's yours, and it's currently stored in China. If you're unable to pay this contribution immediately, we'll store your game for as long as possible. And as of the recording of this video, it is July 22nd. And they're telling us you have to pay your contribution by August 1st. That's about 9 or 10 days from this point. Don't have the calendar in front of me, too lazy to count, but it's about 9 or 10 days. This contribution guarantees that your game will be on the first containers that leave the port in mid-August. So, after spending so much time being behind and trying to figure out whatever they're doing, they're saying, hey, you have less than 2 weeks to pay us, or you might not see your game. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. The second thing is, it says here, the Wave 2, when they get down to that, so the second half of the stuff, or the people that don't pay right now, and also the people that don't get the game in English, so all the other regional languages that they translated this into, I don't know how far they go. I know they do like French and stuff, so I don't know how much further they go than that. But while they're waiting to do that, they're going to ask the Wave 2 people, so the people that held out, or the people that get the game in a different language, they're going to ask them for money when their time comes. Hello, Echo. My question here, because we're going to raise questions, is what is that cost going to be? Is it going to be the same? Is it going to be the same amount? Because they're not going to have to pay this till like next year. And the reason this is relevant is because there are geopolitical things happening. There are COVID things happening right now. So some things are still difficult, especially huge logistical undertakings. I understand. My initial thought, just as a spectator, is I don't know what shipping costs will look like next year. Assumedly, barring unforeseen circumstances, just noticing how things like the price of gas are going down, at least in America, slowly. I don't know what it's like in your countries, but thinking that if those types of costs are steadily decreasing, they're going to be cheaper next year. Again, barring unforeseen circumstances. So likely these costs will be cheaper next year. Are they going to charge the same amount? That will be an issue, because now they're charging in 2023 shipping costs about 2022. That remains to be seen. But they say here also, the second option is you prefer to wait. Your game will be stored and added to containers as payments are made. And this is a bit strange, because what payments are they talking about? Are they saying that my payment, like my $50 or $70, is that going to subsidize someone else's payment? Are they going to, is this all just going into a huge fund of payments? I don't know. Like, we don't know. We don't know what this means. This is very ambiguous, at least to me. So if you think you can parse it, let me know. But the reason the shipping costs are an issue, so we're going to go back to the Reddit thread here, is this comment by Zemeckis on the Kickstarter page. They did simple math, okay, and these numbers are available publicly, okay, so this isn't someone speculating. They tell us in this update, so the 1.11 update, what the shipping costs are going to be and how much they need, right? They need the extra 1.75 million. They paid a little bit more out of it, and it comes out to about 850 or so, I believe Zemeckis tells us. After they've told us what they need, and again, the backer amounts are important too, because you can cross-reference the pledge amount that is required with the number of backers in each pledge, okay? So these numbers are not a mystery. These are the numbers they are giving us. It says there's something, and Zemeckis says there's something wrong with the numbers. They say there's $1.7 million, there's that amount of a hole to fill, and they're going to take care of half of that, and then we take care of the other half. Or $875,000 is now what the backers have to pay extra. Okay. Not to mention late pledges and increases in the PM. I'm not sure what PM stands for in this context. There are 10,000, almost 11,000 contributors at the ancestral level, for which $69 is claimed. That is the bracket I am in currently, for a total of 742,000. There's a problem. How can this ancestral level finance so much? Let's continue. The Crimson Pledge, taken by 8,500 contributors, must fund $26. That comes out to $222,000. So just by adding the Ancestral and Crimson together, which are, I believe, the most common ones. So Ancestral's up to 10,000, and Crimson's up to 8. And then the core box is 6,000. So between the two most popular ones, so about 19,000 out of the 29,000 backers are there. Adding those two up the total arrives at 964,000. That is already, let's see, almost $100,000 past what they're asking for collectively from 29,000 people. 19,000 already cover all of that and more. So what does that mean? So the numbers aren't lining up, right? I didn't even take into account the dungeon pledge, late pledge, and all those who raised their pledge at PM time. So those are some questions that Mythic needs to answer, because in this update, they gave us a bar graph, but they didn't give us any actual hard numbers. And if you read through this Reddit thread, I think they did a Q&A, a live Q&A, and people attended it, or at least it was in this Reddit thread or is in the comments section of the update. I'm not sure. But from what I was reading, people were saying that during the live Q&A that the people that were doing it specifically about this game were being kind of evasive and, you know, word salads and stuff like that. And they weren't giving like hard and fast answers when it's really a simple mathematics game right here. It's very easy to see. They say they need this much money and they're asking for this much money, and the two numbers don't line up. So they need to explain that. Instead of giving us this graph, they need to have someone come out and lay out the books, lay out what they spent the money on, because this game raised $5.6 million. And if they are asking for more, that means that potentially they mismanaged it somewhere or what. But we do need to see what these numbers are, but we're not going to get time to see them because of the August 1st date. And so where this gets even more upsetting is down for the FAQ part here. When will you release the overstock of Darkest Dungeon 1 or Wave 1 products, and at what price? As soon as DD1 or DD Wave 1 is shipping, the game will be available on our eShop. New buyers will only receive their order after the first backers, not all backers, the first backers have been delivered. So that means if you choose option 2 of waiting, and you couple that with, if you are unable to pay this contribution, we will store your game for as long as possible. What this reads like is if you do not pay by August 1st, it's going to sit in the warehouse or on the boat or whatever, and then they're going to put it on the eShop, because this is where all of their Kickstarter overstock goes to, is their eShop. So that means that if you paid for the game and you chose not to pay this immediate high pressure FOMO tactic of paying in the next week, or you won't see your game, they're going to sell your game to someone else. So that means if you spent $300 on a pledge, or $150 or whatever you did, or if you bought a bunch of different pieces together and it came out to 200 something, whatever, and you don't pay the shipping cost, they're going to turn around and sell it. And you're going to have to wait even longer, or you may never see it, because they're going to sell it on the eShop and double dip. The second FAQ here. Will you ask for a contribution from the other DD backers, and when? As soon as Wave 2 is ready to print. Not even done printing and sitting on a boat or sitting in a warehouse. As it is ready to print, we'll send the email to 10,000 backers who have not yet paid, those who have not selected the English version, and we will replicate the procedure we will use for Wave 1. So this is what I'm asking. Is it going to be the same cost? So in 6 months time, a year time, whatever it ends up taking them, what's the new cost going to be? Is it going to be the same? Are shipping costs going to go down? Can't really say. Will you be asking for a contribution for other Mythic projects to be delivered? At present, we do not anticipate any additional contributions for any of our undelivered products. However, given the volatile global situation, we cannot state that as a guarantee. Rest assured that a significant amount of due diligence and analysis has been done in arriving at our current restructuring plan. Make of that what you will. There are a few thoughts popping into my head, but I will decline to say them. The thing that does stick out to me is, for this, they are very certain they're going to ask the DD pledgers for more money later. They are 100% certain they're going to do that. As for if they're going to ask other people for more money, they don't know. Make of that what you will. So the next one that's interesting, can I request a refund for my pledge? The Wave 1 products are already printed and paid for, and we can no longer issue automatic refunds. Nevertheless, you can contact our customer service, and we will do our best depending on individual circumstances and our own financial situation. Sounds like you won't get your money back. Why didn't you tell us earlier? This answer is interesting, so I'm going to read it, then you can take a sec, pause the video, make your own thoughts, and then I will tell you what I think. But why didn't you tell us earlier? Every time we had to subsidize shipments due to container price increases, we were convinced that this was the last time. We thought, as did most of the other professional market players, that this was just a temporary increase due to sudden resumption of shipments from China after a long period of stoppage due to COVID. Subsequently, and just when we thought prices had peaked, shipping and manufacturing costs continued to rise in 2021 and 2022 to amounts we never imagined possible. After the outbreak of war in Ukraine, we realized that potentially we'd have to ask for a contribution, as other publishers did. It took a long time to establish the amount of this contribution and how much we ourselves could contribute. We didn't want to just tell you that there would be a contribution. We wanted to give you specific figures. The issue with this part of the statement is they only give you the shipping cost, and they don't give you the breakdown of everything else. Because if you look at the numbers, the game raised $5.6 million. They say shipping is now coming out to $3.1 million, and they're paying a part of that, which means the project has $2.5 million left to work with. We don't know what manufacturing costs. We can ballpark it, and my ballpark estimate was $1 million to $1.5 million, and the reason is because they said that the game, or the project, had a 30% increase right here in raw materials. So this is production costs. And then there was another number they added where they said they gave out a $350,000 number. I can find it this way. There it is. So on top of that, there's an additional $350,000 in manufacturing costs due to the increase in oil and raw materials. So 30% of 1 million-ish is about 300,000. Easy, quick math here. So their total production costs, their production costs are going to be around 1 million to 1.5. I would estimate, given what we've seen here, but they aren't giving us all the numbers. We just have to do some basic algebra to go backwards. So that means that 3.1 million for shipping, 1 to 1.5 for manufacturing, which would leave you about $1 million left over, give or take $1 million to maybe 1.5, depending on a lot of stuff here. So if that is the case, where's the rest of this money going? Presumably salaries and other expenses. I don't know, because they didn't give us all of the numbers. Is there anything else that I need to cover in this? Okay, so yeah, what I was going to say about this, the why didn't you tell us earlier part, so now that you've had time to think about it, this is a word salad political answer, and you can even kind of tell compared to the other ones. Like this one, these are all a couple sentences and stuff, like a small paragraph. This one has a lot of explanation and prices and stuff like that, so it makes sense this one is long. This one is unnecessarily long and doesn't really tell you why they didn't tell us earlier. Because it would have been nice to get more than 1 to 2 weeks notice that we have to pay them or we're not seeing the game. We should have had 3 months notice or longer. They've known about this for a while and they drop it on us last minute. That's why I said it's a big pressure tactic and it's FOMO. So if you don't want to miss out getting your game, you have to pay them now. And you're only going to get part of it. So that is the current inflationary crisis on our business. I do need to check out the live stream if I can find it. And maybe we'll do a follow-up. It would be nice if Red Hook put out a statement. But the questions I want to raise for this project, let me check my time. All right. The questions I want to raise for this project are, what happened to all of this? Because they're not telling us what happened to all of this. You know, they're not bankrupting themselves on this project, I assume. The other thing is why, I mean, I guess it's for money, but how do you feel for the fact that if you don't pay, they will store your game as long as possible, air quotes, and if you don't pay them, your game is going to be on their eShop. Okay, so do we follow that? Pay in the next week. If you don't, it's going to sit in a warehouse, and it is more than likely going to be on the eShop. Make of that what you will. The other thing is the Wave 2 is coming next year. They've historically been behind on everything so far, so who's to say they won't fall behind again? And the other thing that sticks out to me is if we do agree to do this and we pay them, we're almost forced to, because if we don't pay and they sell the games on the eShop, it's going to sell out. I have no doubt that people will buy it instead of, you know, dealing with this fiasco that, you know, people like me are dealing with. But what's to stop them from breaking up Wave 2 into Wave 3 and Wave 4 and stringing it out for another year, 2 years, and doing the same thing? Shipping costs, times are hard. Please give us extra money. Just $50 more. We promise you'll get the game this time. Who's to say? No one knows. So it'll be interesting to follow along with that. And I'm going to reiterate here, the other question we have to ask ourselves is, what does this statement mean in agreement with Red Hook? Because people are assuming that Red Hook necessarily signed off on ripping people off, or whatever you want to call it, extortion. I don't know what inflammatory language you want to use, but did they sign off on these additional costs? Maybe. It would be nice if they told us. The other way to read this is that Mythic is throwing Red Hook under the bus. That's the other way to read this. And seeing this part here, Red Hook giving an extra 100,000. Red Hook didn't have to pay this, but they did. And the conversation could have been Mythic calling Red Hook on the phone or email or whatever and saying, hey, we're having shipping difficulties. The costs have inflated quite a lot. Can you help out so we can still make this happen? And Red Hook said, sure, here's 100,000. That could have been the conversation as well. We don't know. So I think we need to wait until we see more about it or get an official statement. The other thing too with Red Hook is that they're focused on DD2. You know, and they did this partnership. Mythic is supposed to handle most of this, obviously. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this. But the TLDR, which you probably don't care about since you made it this far in the video, but the numbers they're asking for don't line up. It's either just money mismanagement or something else. And Red Hook's extent or involvement and its extent, we don't fully have the scope of. But what we do know is if you don't pay, if you're part of this and you don't pay by next week, they're more than likely going to sell your game on their eShop and double dip. So following this, I will more than likely still be paying this, as dumb as that sounds. But there are a couple reasons. One, I love Darkest Dungeon. I'm just a super fan and I want to collect things for it, so I would like this. Two, the minis look sick, honestly. And three, I want to be able to at least get part of the game and then make a video on it, unboxing, whatever you want to call it, so the other people that are considering buying this can see what it is and get the opinion of someone that is frankly an expert on the series. So that's where I'm at. If you enjoyed the video, let me know. We'll do a follow-up if it's relevant. And hopefully, like, if we get another statement or another update or something, I will take a look at that. If Red Hook puts out a statement, I will be very excited to read that because I want to know what's happening from their end. And if I can track down the live stream or if someone can send it to me, I will watch that and we'll include that in the follow-up. So that's it for this. Let me know what you're thinking. Thanks for watching. Sorry we're all in this mess. If you're a part of this, you know, I'm right there with you. And it's upsetting. The other thing I want to say to all the people in this thread saying it's Kickstarter LOL, this is expected to happen, you know, take the L and stuff like that. I'm going to say you're not helping. You're not helping anyone by saying that. You're not contributing to solutions. You're not contributing to getting something done. When you say that, you're saying, get over it, stop talking about it, and let this go. When this is potentially something we shouldn't let go. And also, in that vein, Mythic has an online store. They're a legitimate business. And if you want some social commentary, it might be time to examine the rules and change the rules if companies are allowed to hide behind the rules of Kickstarter, even though they run a storefront. Because Kickstarter is supposed to be for up-and-coming projects from people that can't get the funding and they don't want to take a business loan or something like that. And Kickstarter does the rest. But what we have here with Mythic is clearly a board game company that has several projects that have successfully shipped under their belt, hiding behind Kickstarter because they get in less trouble. At least that's what it reads to me. So there's my opinion on the matter. I already started doing the outro, but let me know what you think. I'll link everything in the box below so you can read it yourself if you want to. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.